Let us now deep dive into something simple but very powerful: how Indian families stay connected through everyday life, through daily routines, small rituals, moments of care. If you've ever lived in and around an Indian home, you've seen this. Life is full of events. Some are loud, some are festive, others are quiet, sometimes in clockwork, sometimes in kitchen, courtyards, prayer rooms. You'll see a grandmother oiling her granddaughter's hair before school, a brother saving up to buy a gift for his sister on Rakhi, or an uncle neatly packing sweets for niece's Tuloni Biya, right? They don't look like lessons, but they are. They teach us how to care, how to celebrate, how to belong. This is how knowledge is passed on in Indian families. We call them Gyan Parampara. It doesn't happen through textbooks, it happens in action. And all of them have names, right? Rituals, fasts, games, meals, stories. But beneath all of them is one central goal, which is keeping the family close. Let's take a closer look. Think about siblings, okay? So whether you've grown up with one or grown up with many, or even if your cousins, they felt like your siblings, sibling bonds with your cousin, it doesn't happen quietly. Your cousins show up, your siblings show up. There's so many ceremonies, like for instance, Rakhi is very well known. A thread, a tilak, a gift. Sister ties a Rakhi, the brother hands over something shiny or sometimes cash. But underneath that exchange, there's an agreement that I'm here, I look out for you, even if we argue over TV remote. And then there's lesser known, a very special one. For instance, the Yam Dvitiya. In some parts of North and Central India, it's said that on this day, Yamaraj, the god of death, visited his sister Yamuna. She welcomed him with sweets and arti, and in return, he promised that anyone who celebrates this bond will have a long life. Now, these stories are, of course, exemplars, and we have to see them not through the factual quote unquote value, but in terms of what they indicate, what they symbolize. Not because, and people don't remember the stories, but the message stays, which is that brothers and sisters, they're part of each other's lives, and not just when things are good, but also when things are bad. During weddings, sisters show up in their own ways. You've probably heard of Juta Chupai, there's the shoe stealing ceremony. The bride sisters hide the groom's shoes and demand money to return them. Everyone laughs, but it's more than fun. It's like the sisters are saying we're involved. This marriage affects us too, right, in one way or the other. And so, these things keep happening. In Kerala, during the Vavu Bali, brothers doing ancestral rituals, they sometimes include sisters who have passed away. That tells you something. These rituals hold memories. They're not just celebrations alone. And so whether it's a thread, a tilak, or a hidden shoe, or a plate of sweets, the message is the same, which is that you're mine and I'll show up for you. And even if I tease you for the rest of my life. Think about spouses. Then don't have to talk much about it, but a lot of Indian homes, a wedding isn't the end of the story. It's actually the first chapter. What comes after, how couples stay close, grow old together, with families around them, and they're managing their life routines. All of this, of course, depends on where you are in the country, and therefore it might look different in one way or the other, but the central message remains the same. For instance, in North like UP, Uttar Pradesh, or Punjab, Delhi, there's Karwa Chauth, right? Women fast from sunrise to moonrise for the well-being of the husbands. No food, no water all day. They dress up, do puja with other women, they share stories, they wait for the moon. In the western part of this country, Maharashtra, for instance, you see Vat Savitri, right? Similar idea, fasting. And married women go around a banyan tree, tying threads. There's also this Haldi Kumkum, where married women invite other women home, often vermilion and turmeric. They offer these things and, share snacks, blessings, etc. It's less about the couple and more about the network around them. Gujarat, for instance, you'll find the newlywed, they're doing Matli. The groom's family sends gift to the bride's family during key festivals for the first year. It's a way to keep the bond going, post-wedding in some ways. In South, things shift a little bit. Maybe in Tamil Nadu, the man turns 60. The couple celebrates Shasti Abda Purti. Sometimes they even redo part of their wedding, wear new garlands, renew their vows in front of their kids and grandkids. It's like saying we have come this far and sort of let's keep this going. There's also this Mangala Snanam, an early morning sort of oil bath that couples take. before big festivals like Pongal or Diwali. You won't see cameras, you won't see a guest list, but it's a shared moment. Like one is boiling water, another one is finding towels. All of these things happen together. In Kerala, there is Sandhya post marriage. After the wedding, the bride often hosts her husband's family for a feast, usually with help of her mother. Move slightly to Karnataka, and you will see couples celebrating Gaudi Habba. Before Ganesh Chaturthi, the wife performs a puja for Parvati. Sometimes husbands they sit beside them, even if they don't know the chants. In the northeast, there are different kinds of other rituals that happen. In Assam, the wedding is called Bia, right? Like Bia, and one of the follow-up customs is Santi, a meal with family that comes few days later. There's music. Sometimes there are bride songs. The bride sings. Sometimes the groom is pulled into the jokes by older relatives. All of these things happen, and these type of things happen across the country. In Goa, before the Christian weddings, there is a rose ceremony. Friends and family gather to apply coconut milk to the bride and groom. They sing, joke, splash water. It's messy, but also full of affection. Even in Ladakh, for instance, in Buddhist traditions and the weddings, there's a moment where the couple offers tea to elders after the ceremony. So, I mean, whether it's fasting, feasting, tying threads, or serving tea, these rituals they help couples pause, reflect, and include others in their journey, and they do it together. And these things therefore make their journeys more meaningful in a way that they belong. Because in India, marriage doesn't belong to the couple alone; it belongs to the house, the street, the family WhatsApp groups. Everyone has a role. Everyone is watching, and yes, everyone is invited. You must have seen all these grand barats on the street and people are dancing. I mean, these gestures tell us a lot more than just fun. Now, let's come to children. I mean, you've noticed that in many Indian families, baby isn't born into a home. They kind of arrive in some form of a network. Before they can even sit up or recognize faces, there's already people deciding what they will eat, what they will wear, when they'll get a haircut, who gets what, who will get to name these babies. You'll hear everyone, like my grandmother named him, and this is a very common thing. We waited for the pandit to tell us the letter. Naming is an event here. It's not just a paperwork. And that event, it's called Namkaran in many places. In some places it's on the 11th day, sometimes on other days, but the baby's name might be whispered in the ear, sometimes written in rice, sometimes based on some nakshatra or the time that they were born. And yes, there's a debate, but eventually someone settles on a name and the child gets introduced to the world. And this someone need not necessarily be the parent actually. And then there is Annaprashana, the first bite of solid food. In Bengal, it's usually rice and banana. In Kerala, maybe payasam. Tamil Nadu, they call it choru unnal. And the baby is fed with rice by everyone in the family. You'll often see the baby sitting on the father's lap with someone else, taking turns with a tiny spoon. It's a beautiful sight to behold. The first haircut. Some families go to the temples. Some shave the child's head at home and wrap the hair in the cloth to be floated in a river. Some parts, it's done during a third year. It's called Jawad, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. In Andhra, it's part of the Chula Panayanam package. It's for a boy. Why is this fuss over one haircut? It's seen as a fresh start. That is the whole point. Let go of old karma. Give them a clean slate. Let's talk about Karnaveda, the ear piercing. That's another ritual that babies go through. In Tamil homes, girls get their ears pierced, sometimes their noses pierced before they even start the school. In rural Maharashtra, it's a big event with sweets, music, child wearing a fancy outfit. Even in cities, there's often a puja around it. It's partly for health, partly for tradition, partly because maybe this is how it's done. Then there is Vidya Arambha, the beginning of learning. In Kerala, it's done on Vijayadashmi. A child is helped to write their first letter, usually on rice or on a slate, sometimes on a golden ring. The hand guiding there is usually the parent or a grandparent or a teacher. It's not perfect handwriting, of course. It's about saying learning begins and you won't be alone. So you are surrounded with people who are helping you to begin your journey of learning with the Arambha. Then comes another big milestone, the puberty ceremonies in many parts of India. In Tamil Nadu, when a girl starts her period, there's Ritukala. In Assam, it's called Tuloni Biya. In many families, the girl is given her first sari, jewelry, new clothes, and sometimes a small talk from an aunt about what's changing. The idea is to give her support, make her feel proud, not nervous. Cousins gather, neighbors show up with gifts. In some homes, there's a feast. In others, maybe it's a quiet one, but it's still acknowledged. In communities, many communities in Odisha and parts of Chhattisgarh, coming of age is marked with singing and dancing in the Ghotul, local youth dormitory that also serves as a social space. Girls and boys both take part. There's no shame about it. It's part of growing up. And so we celebrate that moment. In some Telugu families, boys get celebrated too when they start wearing a dhoti or go through Upanayan ceremony. Upanayan, that sacred thread, right? But also kind of graduation into learning and responsibility. What's interesting is that each of these rituals may have a purpose, but the bigger idea is that children don't grow up alone. Many of them are ancestral practices. There's a grandmother checking if aunt preparing laddus to build strength, neighbors dropping by with halwa because the child passed a test. All of these things go on. So this is where you see this Gyan Parampara, when children learn how to treat others by being treated with care, and Lokek Prayojana, where everyday traditions actually help manage the child's growth, the anxiety of growth in some ways. Every birthdays have their own mix. In some homes, the child touches the feet of the elders before cutting the cake. In others, they do a small puja at home or visit a temple. Some get a head shave on their first birthday, some feed the poor, some just stay at home with sort of family biryani. Different styles, but the same idea. You've made it through another year, we're all here for the next one in some ways. This, you also see these things in remembrance. There's a certain way in which people in India remember those who have departed. Take, for instance, the Termi, for instance, right? The 13th day. In many North Indian families, it's the 13th day after someone's passing that it's conducted. Until then, the house is kind of a pause, no festivals, no music, no clothes. Visitors keep coming, some sit and talk, some just sit. And then on the 13th day, the family cooks a full meal, sometimes dozens of items. And it serves it to friends, neighbors, anyone who comes. There are prayers, of course, but more than that, there is food, conversation, stories. Talk about the person who's passed away, the person who, you talk freely, openly, and it's a way of saying their stories. And these stories, they don't just kind of stop there. In Tamil Nadu, for instance, you'll find a ceremony called Karumati. It's done on specific days after a person has passed. The family cooks the food that person used to love. The clothes are folded neatly. The name is said out loud. Relatives gather, even from far away, and not to mourn necessarily, but to be there. Some homes repeat this every year. Same dishes, same rituals, because decades, even decades later, and because keeping someone alive isn't about memory. In Monsenimti village in Nagaland, the passing of a community member kind of sets off a series of distinct rituals that hold both energy and meaning. Grief is not silent here. It begins with loud wailing, calling out the name of the person who has passed away. Family members may stomp their feet, hit the walls, sometimes pour water from a bamboo container. It's believed that all this moment helps protect the tsulim, the soul, kind of loose translation, from some harmful spirits. In some households, the body isn't buried immediately. Instead, it's wrapped in a cloth and placed on a bamboo mat in the first room of the house. During this time, the family is rarely alone. The entire village stands with them. They stay. In Bengal, you'll often hear the word shradho. It's not a somber event. It's detailed. It's personal. There's a rice bell offering called pind, often given with the idea that wherever they are, they'll receive it. Pindadan, right? Sometimes the priest asks, what was their name? What did they enjoy? And those details matter because it's ritual for them. It's not just in their name. In fact, different forms of these rituals, we see them in different parts of India. In Kerala, families maintain Tharavad homes, ancestral houses, even when no one lives there full time. And every year, amongst the Parsis, there is a prayer called Uthamna. Maybe this is how you pronounce it, in the third day of the death. And every year on the same date, there is Muktad, the day of remembrance for all ancestors. Families keep a list of those dates. Some even keep a corner of the house for fresh flowers every year for these people. Not out of habit, out of presence, as if to say you are still part of our calendar. Even in urban spaces in this country, it's common to see a photo with garland. Have you noticed this? That in most Indian households, people who have passed away, their photos still remain. With a diya or a agabati, maybe a mala on them. Children grow up asking, who's that? Right? And the answer is usually a story. Someone who came from another village, who cooked a certain way, who once told a joke no one forgot. That's how memory works. This memory is also collective. For instance, during All Souls Day, entire cemeteries fill with people lighting candles, bringing flowers. It's a gathering. Graves are cleared, meals are cooked, people talk about those who aren't here. Even during the Pitru Paksh, in many parts of India, families cook, offer food for ancestors. They believe that they'll return to bless and to be fed. The house is quiet at those days. Lunch is simple, clean, served on banana leaf or a brass plate. That's why here, memory doesn't feel like something you carry alone. It moves through the family, and somehow, without needing to say it, people stay. I mean, if you move to extended families, there are different kinds of customs that you will now see. When you grow up in an Indian family, you really don't know who's actually technically in charge. It's your parents, yeah, but it's also your mama who shows up every festival with gifts. The masi who knows exactly when your board results are coming out, or the bua who tells your parents if they scold you too much. That's what an extended family looks like, right? It's not extra, it's kind of essential. And it shows up in all the big moments of life. Weddings, because honestly, that's where the extended family goes all in. Punjabi wedding, the mama, who's a maternal uncle, isn't just a guest. He's the main guy. For instance, the Bhaat ceremony. He gives gifts to the bride, blesses her, and sometimes even walks her to the altar, to the stage. In that moment, he's not just an uncle. He's her support system. Bhai is important in Rajasthani weddings. Same idea. Maternal side comes with love, gifts, and their full presence. Gujarat, sometimes they call it Mausalu. It's the same emotion with a different name. And then there is Kelvan in Maharashtra, kind of a pre-wedding feast that is hosted by relatives. Dishes like Puran Poli, Katachi, Amti, Fryams, dal, and rice are served with care. They're made by people who genuinely want the couple to feel happy and at home. If you look at Tilwa, again, tradition followed in parts of Maharashtra, the bride's first sort of Sankranti in her new home. She gives van, small gifts, to her relatives around her. This is how she steps into a larger family. This is how she's seen and welcomed. In Uttarakhand, the maternal uncle gives the bride her wedding nose ring, the Tehri Nath. It's a gesture that says it's involved. It has a role in her new journey. It's not just the weddings. On Karwa Chauth is the sargi that kicks off the day, a meal sent by mother-in-law to the daughter-in-law. It's a way of saying that she's taken care of, even before sunrise. And honestly, isn't that the kind of best support system? So what do we learn from all this? We learn that in Indian homes, family isn't just about who lives under one roof. It's the people who show up with food, with help, with advice, with arguments. It's the aunt who walks in as if she owns the place. That's what Gyan Parampara and Lokik Prayojan looks like in practice. Not something taught in classroom, but passed on through routines, through shared moments, through showing up. And if you have grown up around an Indian family, you've already seen it happen. I mean, in that sense, this session is not telling you something you don't know. You've already learned it. Thank you so much.